All right, we're going to get started here. Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Glad those folks who are online and those folks who are be coming in shortly here because we had a good meal. So, sometimes we get a good meal, get the fellowship and the talking good. So we got to get out a little bit of time here. So continuing with our mental health seminar, and this one is entitled Handling Conflict. So this one here is going to be, well, as I was putting a lot of things together, these are things that I kind of see that goes on from either church members or just other people that I talk to in general in the world, that conflicts do occur. And, hopefully after this presentation, we'll get the big picture of why sometimes conflicts do occur and how, in turn, within the conflict, they can actually be a blessing for people. Okay, so this is my medical disclaimer that I always put into play, that all content in this presentation is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to substitute professional medical advice or should not be relied on as health or personal advice. Always seek the guidance of your doctor or other qualified health professional with any question regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard the advice of a medical professional or delay in seeking it because of something discussed in this presentation. If you think you're having a medical emergency, call your doctor, go to the nearest hospital emergency department, or call the emergency services immediately. If you rely on any information provided, you do so solely at your own risk. Now, those folks who been through this journey with me of actually doing this, I kind of always like to do surveys just to kind of see mentally where you're at. And this survey is kind of interesting. It goes back, I want you to go in your mind's eye for a little bit and go back to the past 6 months. These questions are related to the past 6 months as I ask these questions to how you've dealt with conflicts. Okay, in the past 6 months, how often did you do the following to handle conflicts? If someone disagrees with me, I vigorously defend my side of the issue. I go along with suggestions from peers, even if I don't agree with them. I give and take so that an agreement can be reached. I'll give it say argument. All right, question 4. I keep my opinions to myself rather than openly disagree with people. In disagreements, go ahead. Oh, I think it's your phone. And question number 5, in disagreements or negotiations, I try to find the best possible solutions for both sides by sharing information. I try to reach a middle ground in disputes with other people. I go along with the wishes of people who have different points of view than my own. I refrain from openly debating issues where there is a disagreement. In negotiations, I hold on to my position rather than give in. I try to solve conflicts by finding solutions that benefit both me and the other person. I let peers have their way rather than jeopardize our relationship. I try to win my position in a discussion. I investigate conflicts with peers so that we can discover solutions that benefit both of us. It is not worth the time and trouble discussing my differences of opinion with other people. To reach an agreement, I give up some things in exchange for others. Now, what does the Bible say about handling conflict? The Bible has to say a lot of things on a lot of different subjects, but people sometimes don't look at the context of what it is. So I'm just going to point out a couple of things that the Bible says about how to deal with conflicts. Hebrews 12, 14 through 15. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many are defiled. Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. Proverbs 18:13, he that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. Colossians 3:13, forbearing one another and forgiving one another, if any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. Now, let's go ahead and start defining what is really a conflict. These are some of the typical definitions when people have, or what they define that, I have a difficulty or a conflict or whatever the case may be with people. They say it's a disagreeing with one another, difference of opinion with one another, complaints about our performance, criticism of our behavior and attitude, negative evaluation of our performance, fighting with one another, stress-inducing event in which we are confronted in a negative way, a test of our power. You said, wait a minute. What I got to do with conflict? Sometimes wills clash, you know. My will maybe want to do this and your will might be whatever. So sometimes it could be testing of power. Sometimes even people in authority, it could be a test of power. A threat to our control. Matching of wills. A anger-producing event. A threat to our security. Taking a risk. Wait a minute, you say taking a risk is a conflict? We'll touch on that a little bit more, but it is. It can be. Speaking out for our beliefs. Risking the loss of acceptance. A time when no one is communicating whether people are angry silently or yelling at one another.
Now, these are not direct answers, they're typical.
Right.
People might say when you ask what a conflict
Right. Yeah. To gain clarity, good point, is that these are just a typical definition because a conflict means that I don't like you. That might be just a conflict. I just don't like you. But it's something as it says in the definition too, is either the criticism of our behaviors or our attitudes. That's the thing we really don't like. It's the person's actions and our behaviors. And sometimes we don't know how to address them. Or sometimes we'll get in that. I don't want to go too far, but sometimes we got to learn how to be able to attack the issue, not a person's character. That's what winds up happening a lot of time in conflicts. We want to attack a person's character. Oh yeah, either or. Yeah, we're gonna touch on that a good little bit here because I'm actually going to give you a formula how to actually really deal with conflicts. Someone acting in direct opposition to our request. Defending our rights when they are being ignored. In a positive sense, conflict can be looked at. I want you to look at this as I read this. Some conflicts are good. Time to grow for the parties involved. If you're in a relationship, whatever the case may be, sometimes that conflict that you may have may be the best thing that may need to happen so you can build the relationship. Because a lot of times, you may not know how a person may think about something. I use myself as an example. You know how sometimes people have fears or something or phobias? She might not gonna like it, but I'm gonna kind of tell the story a little bit. You guys have been like car dealerships and they had the big old American flag that be waving and and looks real huge. My wife is scared of those flags because she just has this idea that one day that flag will fall, and that fall, I'll be driving and I can't see. I was like, wow, I would have never thought that in a million years that she had that kind of phobia with a flag. But sometimes by you having that conversation or something else comes up, it points out other things that you don't know people have in their behaviors. And you be like, oh, no, as she explained it to me, I saw what she was saying that, okay, now what's the likelihood of that happening? But it could happen. Yeah, it could happen. So I understood as she explained. I was like, yeah, God, I wouldn't want it to happen, but it could, yeah. Nowadays, as me and Brother Jonathan were talking about planes falling out of the skies and everything else, we don't know what that might happen. So I would doubt it if that would. Hoping it doesn't. But yeah, it's time for you to grow and parties involved. Time in which problems can be solved creatively by looking together at a variety of alternatives. Sometimes we can clash on the ways. And sometimes you might have to look at having two different ways. Or we may have to have your way might not be best and my way not be the best. We might need to sit down and say, hey, what is the best way? And by we doing that, it just will open up a whole lot of things. Hey, come on in, good people. All right.
The best way, it doesn't matter. If your way's good, your way's good.
Could be. Or if you can find something alternative that everybody gets in a win-win situation, sometimes it may happen. Sometimes, we'll touch on it a little bit, that sometimes our wills won't allow us to say that person's idea is better than ours. And so we'll sit there like, and knowing I was dead wrong. And he was like, ooh, she made a whole lot of sense what she said. But I can't tell her that, so that's a whole nother subject there. But we clash like that sometimes. Yep, it's like eggshells, they're fragile. All right, chance to evaluate our performance objectively. Time for us to increase our knowledge of one another, like the example I used earlier. I wouldn't know my wife would ever thought about that until she brought it to me. And I was like, wow, that was like, okay, that's a new one there. Chance to reveal our unique ways of thinking, acting, and feeling. Again, sometimes you could be with someone for so long in relationships and whatever, but you never know what is really their thought processes. They'll show some things in their behavior. You be like, okay, that's just how he is, or that's how, especially in a long-term relationship, well, that's how he is, or that's how she is. Not thinking there is a method to the madness of why they think this way. And then when it conflicts, then you like, well, why you always do that? Then you was like, well, let me explain why. Because sometimes it could be just past behaviors, past experience he or she went through that get them to think that way. And then you may have to help them to think differently to say, hey, you know what? That's a better way to think. It's a better way to do it. And you're like, you know what? Hey, it builds the relationship, a stronger bond. Chance to show understanding, respect, and acceptance of the unique ways in which others think, act, or feel. Chance to be, I had to throw this in here, just to throw it in here, to be devil's advocate regarding our position, attitudes, and beliefs. Because sometimes, some people, it should be, there you go. Hey, that's always a rule of thumb. If something, whatever, turn it off and turn it back on. Same thing with your computers, all that. Okay, but sometimes we need to challenge, sometimes our own thinking need to be challenged. Okay, because if you always think that you are right, and I say that with air quotes, right, and then somebody points out your inadequacies, that may make you feel a certain way. Again, I use myself as an example. You know how I'm trying to help someone and I'm helping them and I know what I'm doing. And I know because I done it 1,000,001 times. And then they go and ask somebody else, hey, you know, so doing something. Is that right what they were doing? I'm like, how many times I'd have done this and I know exactly what I'm doing. So I had to catch myself from sometimes because I'm like, you just asked me this and I showed you what it is. And then so I had to take a deep breath. I say, okay, that's just who they are. And I got to roll with it because it's no use with it because you're not going to change nobody else thinking. That's just how they operate. Okay? So I had to throw that one in there. Opportunity to clarify our roles and functions in certain situations. You know, especially in relationships, you know, that could vary sometimes, you know. Most men should be whatever, women whatever. Sometimes, men, you got to wash dishes sometimes, okay? All right, men, sometimes you got to cook, okay? Men, they say the car broke, get it fixed, okay? Don't. Well, I mean, I have no problem. Trust me, my house, I'm pretty much everything in it. So I have no problem with that. Okay, I'm gonna leave that one. I'm not gonna touch that one. All right, opportunity to clarify and define the rules of interaction in an attempt to strengthen our relationships. Okay, all right. In relationships, especially in conflicts occur in relationships, you got to realize some people have better strengths than you in certain areas. If I know that you got the better strength in, you know, doing the finances or whatever, I'm gonna let you do your thing, okay? But if you know I'm the better, like, hey, if I could fix it, I could whatever, I could put it together, or I could whatever, let me do that. Don't come back and sometimes, what you doing? You know what you're doing, and how you? That don't look right. Oh, stop. Let me process that. Let me do it. Trust me, when I finish, it'll be on point. But let me do it. Sometimes we do it. We want to expedite it or help it along. You know. Oh no, don't look how to box it. Did I ask? I digress. Okay. So, but that happens. But sometimes we need to clarify those rules in that. So sometimes that conflict may occur and a clash. But if they say, you know what, you are better than me putting stuff together. Let me, whatever case may be. So what? It may take you 2 hours, but you get it right. That's fine. So what? It may take you 2 days, but you get it right. I'll wait on it. Process by which feelings ultimately can be aired openly and freely. You got to get to the point that you can, no matter what, you can say how you feel. If you can't, whatever, you got to be guarded, especially if you in a real deep relationship, and you really can't say how you feel. That's sketchy. Compromise that will leave all parties involved in a winning situation. Breath of fresh air in stagnating relationships. Again, sometimes some conflicts just have to occur. The heads got to meet, got to clash. Moment of honesty, which can result in a lifetime of improved communication. Sometimes the worst clashes that you might have had made y'all the strongest in a relationship.
Can you say why?
Yes, because guess what? I get to realize, most importantly, how you really think. How you really feel. Because if you're in a relationship, you really care about someone, I want to know how you really feel. Because my thinking may be totally opposite of what you're thinking. And then you say, wow, I didn't even see it from that direction. Yes, ma'am. Hold on, we got to get you the microphone here. Hold on, we're going. Yeah. We all want the whole world, the World Wide Web to hear you. Nah, it should be. If not, you hit the other one, should be good to go. There you go.
Got on my flats now.
What I was going to say to that is that if the key to that though happening is that people have to get to the place that they're open to communicate. Because a lot of times it's history. It's their story that causes them to be closed. And their assumption is that they're right in being closed, but it could ultimately destroy a relationship that can work. So we have to go back to that communication piece being the forefront. You see what I'm saying? Because it could be dynamics of family structure. It can be situations that they've had and circumstances that they've had in previous relationships. It could be where they got away with things in other situations, and now they're in a situation where they can't, that stronghold is not going to hold. So now the communication lines have to be open in order for that to take place. So that honesty that can result in that lifetime of change is extremely important, because people are set in their ways of thinking and they'll miss the mark of something that can really be successful.
I take it one step.
They move her over to family and marriage counseling.
I take it one step further. Say, for example, you come out of an abusive relationship, and someone really treats you kind.
Correct. You don't know how.
You don't know how to do that because you've been so much in abuse, and somebody really cares about you and being nice and buy you flowers and take you out and things that you think like nobody go. But then you like, but seriously, there are people who people in a relationship that a person really respects them and loves them who they are as a person and appreciates them and honors them and respects them, and they come into that, and then it's like you talking Chinese to me.
It's foreign.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is the person who is doing those things, is doing the gestures, has to understand the history too, or either be committed to breaking down those barriers. Because sometimes we will reject something, not really understanding it. You see what I'm saying? And it could also be that from a mental health perspective as well. And not only that, other dynamics like you were saying before.
Yeah, and this saying, hey, that person who's in that guy, that person got to say to them, hey, talk to me. You have to say to them, talk to me. If you don't tell them that, they won't know. So, good points. Opportunity to draw close to one another in an intimate self-disclosure, kind of cover that, way in which we recognize our deficiencies and brainstorm alternatives to correct them, challenge to growth that is, chance to problem solve, creating a more productive environment. Take the time to talk and communicate openly and honestly, reducing hostility, anger, and misunderstanding relationship. That just pretty much sums all what you just said. Because if you don't take that time to talk, again, unless you got, you're thinking about a Reese's Pieces cup. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't read minds. Nah, because your behavior can kind of tell me a little bit, but I can't sit here and just literally read your mind. And I'm gonna give you even one point, even deeper. The adversary can't read your mind. Yeah, exactly. So now, I just want to throw that caveat out there. Time to clarify our expectations to others. A time to modify existing rules or sanctions based on our expectations. There is no standing like an understanding. Because if you have an understanding, and I understand you, you understand me, boy, that relationship can be beautiful. But we got to get to that point. Now, these are feelings involved in conflict include. Now, these are some of just the negative things that happen when you in a conflict. You feel hurt, scared, afraid, frightened, ignored, confused, isolated, challenged, threatened, unwanted, disliked, put down, controlled, and judgmental. But after you went through that conflict, and these are the positive things that occur. You know what? I didn't know you really cared for me. Okay? You feel confident. You feel relieved, clear on things, more intimate with others, challenged to grow, open to truth, accepted by others, respected, supported, understood, and accepting of differences. Because we are not alike. But if I know how you think and operate, and I know certain things you don't like, hey, I'm not going to push that button when you don't push the button with me. And if I do, I apologize. Hey, correct me to learn. And if I'm willing to learn and be open-minded to learn, that's where the feelings will be so much better And if you do have a conflict, you're much easier to open because you know what? I'm being honest. Hey, honestly, I really don't like this. And you say it. Now, listen to this well. What behavioral patterns help in managing conflict? So that means that what are their thought processes that leads to the behavior that helps you to manage the conflict? I am a firm believer if you think a certain way, you behave a certain way. You're behaving a certain way because you're thinking a certain way. It goes together. So whatever you do in your behavior, it will display it. Now, again, I can't read your minds, but if you saying this or you saying whatever the case may be, that gives me a strong indication of what you're really thinking about. Now, use I statements. Let the other party know how you feel when the conflict is occurring. Let the other person know how you react to the conflict. Let the other person know which of your rights you feel is being ignored in the conflict. In other words, for example, I feel frustrated, I am annoyed, I am irritated, I am agitated, and then you tell them what the behavior he or she does that causes the difficulty. Like, for example, when you eat your dinner or whatever, you just put your plate in the sink. You don't even try to scrape out none of the crumbs or none of that. But you gotta say that. Some people is like, well, I'm finished, whoever left it, well, that's your job. No, it's not. Help each other out. If I'm finished, I know what the case may be, clean the plate off and put it in the sink or the dishwasher nowadays. But you guys see what I'm saying? Those things, you have to point out the behavior versus this is what the opposite people do. You get on my so-and-so nerves. Well, every time you do that so-and-so thing, I'm tired of that now. Do it one more time. I'm telling you, I dare you, do it again. I'm going to show you myself.
There's something to that.
I know it's something to that.
But a lot of that is
A lot of that has to do with their history. So a lot of this goes back to who and what people have experienced and what their exposures are. Some of it could be their lack of security within themselves, okay? But what happens is they'll bring it to you. And they'll say, you think you're this, or you are that. When in actuality, it's not you thinking you're anything. It's you being who you are. And it could be the very thing that they respect you for and love you for, that they have issue with you for.
Okay, I'm going to take you one step higher. Say, for example, organization. You might be the queen of it, but that person is just so disorganized, it ain't even funny. And so they come to you and they see your organization, they really want to be organized themselves. Mm-hmm. But they say, man, your organization get on my nerves.
But I'll give you one that could be personal. And
okay.
The reason why I'm saying it this way is because we're people, okay? And
right.
we have to look at it from people, not necessarily the organization, but you could have an education level, okay, that another does not. And when you have that education level that you have, they love the fact that you have it, they respect it, but then they always feel inferior to your level of education, when in actuality, it has no bearing on the relationship. And the reason why it has no bearing on the relationship, because you can consider that person to be just as intelligent as you are, even though they don't have what you have. But they have to be okay within themselves to understand what you're saying when it comes to that. So it's all about the security of an individual and where they sit in the relationship. Okay, so whether it be a personal relationship, whether it be a work relationship, whether it be an organizational relationship, or where somebody sits, because even in that, have you ever seen it where before somebody joins an organization, the person that they are before they join the organization is one. And then when they join the organization, you see a shift in who the person is, because now the ownership of who the person is directed at what organization they have become a part of. Okay,
let's make it plain, because you and I went to college together, so we know each other quite well. So a lot of times when you go to college and people join organizations, What they do, they already like, okay, they this, they quiet, they know whatever. But when they come out and get their little letters, as they used to say, oh boy, look at here, they woo-hoo, they're like, because they allow them to, or allow this situation of being in the organization change who they really were. Or in turn, that might be always with them, but they wanted to be able to have that excuse now, because I'm this now, I can, whatever the case may be.
More than likely, it's not who they were.
Yeah, there was. I'm just saying,
right.
There is a piece, but that's why I had to make it broad, because
Right.
sometimes that does occur.
Right.
Because there are times that people actually fuse the fire for
So
someone.
that's using that organization piece. But most of the time, if we think about that personal piece,
Yeah, they already.
it's an inferiority conflict there that they're dealing with. And I would say most of the time, even in churches or wherever, just the personal side of the relationships of people, it's the fact that it's not that they don't like you, it's that they have some issues within themselves, and it becomes your issue because they have now made it your issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that I statement is extremely important, as opposed to that you, because now when they come you become defensive yourself, and when you start putting up that defense, what's going to happen? There's not going to be any communication.
Exactly. And or it'll be the wrong type of communication. That's what really happens. Because after a while, hey, ain't gonna be too many more of these. Okay? I'm just being honest with you. Be assertive, not aggressive. Speak about your feelings and your reactions. Keep the statements focused on how you are behaving, thinking, and feeling, rather than on how the other is acting, feeling, or thinking. We got to separate. Trust me, that is hard to do a lot of times, especially if you're in close connection with people. And sometimes you already, especially even in conflicts from work situations, relationships, siblings, whatever, you kind of already know the person a little bit. And by you already knowing them, what happens is that, I wonder if they're thinking that way, because I done seen them display this behavior before. I wonder what's the real angle here? And sometimes it may be not that, it may be something totally different. But you got to address the behavior. And that's what you got to remember. But the moment you get aggressive with it, that's when it gets out of hand. Yes, ma'am.
And the truth of the matter is, I don't care how well you know a person, you don't know what they're thinking.
I was glad somebody said that. That was my next statement. I was going to see that was my next question, to see do you really know how people really think. Yeah, but no, you was on point. That was on point, because we really don't.
Because when you really think about it, as we, well, I won't even say as we mature, but at some point you have to come to a maturity level that the only person that you can really have any control over is the person who's wearing the skin. So that is why it's so important to use I statements instead of you statements. And I had to learn this the hard way because of the conflicts that I was having, because I was a you person. But like you say, most of the time it has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with you and your insecurities. And you have to be willing to admit that.
Ooh, now you said a mouthful. That's a whole nother subject. But speak calmly, coolly, and rationally. In this way, you'll be listened to, and you will be able to maintain better control of yourself. Otherwise, the other person may be put in a defensive attitude with you. Because as soon as you start blaming, you sick, and you get on my last nerves. Yeah. And like I said, and that's why sometimes you may see the ugly side of the other person. You may say, okay, that's what you want. I'm going to show you what you want. And we don't realize sometimes we can open up a Pandora's box that can't be closed. And then you're like, well, I didn't even know you had that in you. I'm telling you folks, and then these things bleed over in so many different areas of people's lives that it's to the point where they can't function. They're always on the defensive. They're always like, okay, so what you trying? So what you mean? And I just made how you doing? And you just went way over to the left. Right. But it is the matter of perspective in the mind of that individual, though. Avoid blaming. This will keep the communication flow going and encourage understanding and empathy for each other's feelings. It recognizes that for a conflict to exist, there must be at least two parties who are adversely affected by the conflict. So, I mean, it is something that's in the middle of you guys stopping you from growing together. And I don't care if it's a pimple, acne, whether you got to pull that out, pop it, whatever you got to do, you got to get rid of that. Because if you don't, it's not going to let you grow.
And denial is not the thing that will get rid of it. You can't ignore what has taken place. That needs to be talked about as well.
Yeah, you gotta open up everything and be willing to be open up to everything. Continuing here, create an atmosphere of healing. In an attempt to heal the wounds resulting from a conflict, all parties involved must feel that they are being listened to and understood, that their rights are being respected. They must feel the desire to work things out and commitment to the process of working out the problems. They must feel wanted and cared for by the parties involved. Yep, so I mean, in other words, you got to if you got a space in your house that, okay, you know what, this is where we work out all our conflicts at. Designate that space, and this is where we work out conflicts. It could be the kitchen table, I don't care where it could be, but I'm like, you got to sit down, and I'm like this, we ain't going to leave until we get an understanding.
Question. It goes back to when, if a person has mental health issues.
Okay.
That were not addressed over there. And really because that was quote unquote taboo, right?
Still is today.
Still is today, correct. Now, what happens when the person that they're conflicting with now has the understanding that they have the issues that they have. But then they talk to people who knew them in childhood, right? And they're telling them, yeah, they were like that over there. You realize and recognize that those issues exist. And even though they have some other deep-rooted issues, but these things are exacerbated by the two things that are at hand. But now the person has to acknowledge that on one hand, but they also have to deal with the behavior over here. And in the process of them dealing with the behavior over there, right, it's still going to be a tough situation to the healing. They're going through the healing process, but in your mind, you're still dealing with the conflict at hand. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay, let me answer that question. Healing has to start from within. Mm-hmm. If you know that you got an issue, you got to work that out. If you need to seek professional help, mm-hmm. or I would tell you, go to the great physician. Everybody knows. That's right. Okay. And let God show you what is wrong with you and help him to give you an out. Because he will. If seriously, he will. He will show you what is wrong with you and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you an out to help you to be able to deal with that. Now, if that person's not willing to do that, you're going to have conflicts constantly in the relationship.
The conflicts that they're going to have really stem from the fact that the person has been able to get away with the behavior all the time. And now what they're having to do is set boundaries, and they're having to make them accountable. And in their old age, they're making them accountable.
Or in other words, they're being checked.
They're being checked. And of course, what ends up happening is the person who's being checked is not appreciative of the person who's checking them, okay, because it's a child, mm-hmm. because it's their child. But the parents are older, and they're now in a position where they need help. However, as I informed the caregiver, because the caregiver is the child, you still have to take a space for you. Even though the situations are what they are, You have to take a space for you. But you still cannot not hold them accountable in the process of time. And even though they don't necessarily want to do, you now have to step back in that situation. And then because they've never been parents. So that healing part is super critical. So what do? They're praying, they're doing all the things they know to do. But just reminding that conflict is still there, not because they want it to be. They would like for it to be to resolve, but getting the person who the conflict is with, what do you do?
Yeah, they got to realize that there's a conflict. And that's the hardest thing, especially with a person that you may care for or love for, and you really want them to see that. I mean, you just got to point it out, but you got to do it in a loving way. You got to say, hey, have you noticed that this situation occurs that you display this type of behavior? Did you ever wonder why did you display this type of behavior? Oh, that's just me. That's what they tell you. That's just me. I said, well, yeah, is that a good version of you, though? Oh, see, sometimes you got to learn to ask a double question. Is that a good version of you? Don't we always want to put our best foot forward in everything that we do? So that's the only best thing you got of you? I think you could do better.
That's a good one. Reverse psychology.
Seriously. Okay, I'm gonna say this point, and I'm gonna move on. Because I was trying to help my parents because they have their alarm system. And they was like, gee, it was pricey. And I said, you been with them for how many years? Over 20 some odd years, and you paying this? And I said, okay, let me use the power of negotiation. So I said to the person on the case and I just told them straight up, I don't think you're applying yourself. Sometimes you just gotta just say it. I don't think you're applying yourself. I think you could do better. How about we go back to the drawing board and see what we can do better? Okay, I'm gonna put you on hold. You know how they had to put you on that hold? About 5 minutes later, about 5 minutes later, I give them whatever. They'll say, well, Mr. Hudley, we have this wonderful deal for you because you can do this, and this. After this is gonna be the price forever. Thank you very much. I said, you know what, if I give you 5 stars, I give you 6. So that's what you may have to do. Get them to realize it, and they don't even realize it, but when they realize it, they'll realize that, oh man, where I could have been further if I would have realized this earlier. If that makes sense what I just said. Okay? But good point, that's a good question. Be willing to forgive. Forgiveness is a powerful tool of healing. You have a chance for personal growth by forgiving others for their part in the hurt and pain you suffered. At times, this is the only way to resolve a conflict. Now, here's the part that match to this. Be willing to forget. Once you have resolved the conflict and felt you were listened to, care for, and understood, then let go of the conflict. Once you have implemented an agreed resolution, put aside the conflict, put it behind you. Get it out of your mind. Forget it. Don't bring up the future as if it have not been resolved. If you write down the resolution of the conflict, you will have a written proof that it's over and it has to be forgotten. Okay? I'm telling you, that's the worst thing you ever can do. Yeah, I forgive you, bud. And then, you know when you did that, ooh, you pissed me off, made me so mad, Jonathan. Ooh. I said I forgive you, but if I did, why I keep flaking the dandruff? Why I keep flaking the dandruff? Why I keep pulling out the scab? If I'm good with it, I am good with it. We are good. I won't ever bring it back up again unless you bring it up because you might feel a certain way. Then we'll talk about that. But other than that, you ain't got to worry about it because I'm done with it. I move on. And if you can't move on with it, I got to sit down with you and say, man, let me tell you something, man. I still feel a certain way. You know, you got to work with me. I'm going to work with you, bro. But you still got me feeling a certain way. But I'm willing to whatever, man. So if I whatever, man, check me on that. but we got to get to that part that we just, that's a difficult tool. I'm telling you, I've met people who can say whatever, but will not let it go. Oh, you raise your hand being guilty?
I'm one of those.
Well, but seriously, it is a process. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat this, and it is because guess what? And one day, I've been really thinking about doing this, about doing a seminar on this, understanding the difference between feeling and emotions. I wasn't gonna say this out loud, but I've really been thinking about doing a seminar on this, understanding the difference. Because emotions are who we are as human beings, but feelings are the behaviors that causes and changes exactly. So that's been torn in my mind because I got a series of things I'm seeing that I want to accomplish, but that's just one of the ones that's really been plicking at me, I say, within the last week and a half. Really just, I need to narrow that down. I just hadn't had a chance to, God hadn't bring it to me how to map it out yet, but I really need to work on that.
That's a necessary one, if you don't mind me saying so. And the reason why I say it's a necessary one is because when we look at that one and we think about what Jesus did for us, and really, when we think about how God forgives us and how he does what he does where we're concerned, it ain't who we are. We weren't born into that. We are the beneficiaries of that. But we as human beings are not that. We really do feel and we really do respond and we react a certain way. But then the word tells us that we're not supposed to, right? So understanding that there is a difference between that, just like there's a difference between hearing and listening. People don't realize there's a difference between feelings and emotions.
Yeah, I'm seriously, I've really been torn with that one in my head for a minute, so you just kind of gave me confirmation. All right, be honest. In resolving a conflict, it's imperative that you be honest with yourself and others about your feelings and reactions to the conflict and to the resolutions. If you are feeling in a way, if you are feeling in a way that you think you must, or in a way that others want you to, not being yourself, then a resolution of the conflict is a false one. The conflict is sure to recur. You gain nothing by being dishonest in the management of the conflict. You waste your time and energy and end up feeling failure or guilt rather than grow because you was not honest. Or as some people go along and get along. Again, we talked about earlier, sometimes some conflicts need to occur to clear the air. No standing like an understanding. Focus on feeling rather than content. Effective listening and responding are the key elements in the productive resolution of a conflict. Listen to the feelings and emotions of the other and reflect them with empathy and understanding. This creates an atmosphere of being cared for and listened to. It reduces defensiveness. It focuses on the process involved rather than on the issues. It brings the parties to a clearer recognition of the individuality and humanity. To focus on feelings clarifies the issues, eliminating extreme items. So if I care about you, and I say to you, brother or sister, tell me how you feel. Just before you even get to have a conversation, just tell me how you feel. You know what? I'm frustrated right about now. I'm angry. I'm pissed off. Get all that out. Now, you're honest. Now, we got to the feelings. Now, let's sit down and really talk. Because I need for you to get all that out. Because I want to know how you, if I really care about you, I want to know how you feel.
Not the mask.
Oh, yeah. I tell people all the time, Matter of fact, me and my mother was having this conversation the other day. I said, you know what? I said, people do whatever the case may be, have masks or whatever. I said, how many times somebody asks you how you feel? You say, oh, I'm feeling fine. If somebody really asks you how you feel, look here. Man, my feet hurt, my head hurt, I ain't got no money, I'm broke, I'm tired, I don't like this job I'm at. But other than that, I'm fine.
Differentiate between who people are and how they really feel
Right.
about who are not so caring. And that's why people do that. Because of the fact that they really are looking at it from that perspective, they're not honest.
I just throw that out there because we do that so lackadaisically. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling fine. Oh, yeah. But I'm like, ooh, you really know how? Ooh, first of all, you asked me that. I don't know why you asked me that. What you trying to get in my business for one? One, two, I don't really like you like that. See, I'm just being honest. Okay, hold on. Right, yes, ma'am. Let me get Ms. Murray. She want to.
It can't be somebody that you
Do care about, exactly. Exactly.
Now, the one thing that I think of, for me, being a Christian, that when someone say, how are you feeling? If I'm feeling bad and I tell you I'm fine, that's a lie. That's my feeling about it. So I don't tell a lie, says I'm doing the best I can, or I try to fix it up. But I don't want to tell you all of my problems. See, I don't want to tell you all of my problems. I just want to tell you that I'm not my best. That's another one I use. I'm not my best today, or I'm doing the best I can, and I'm here. Sometimes I just say I'm here, but I don't want to tell you all my problems because it may take a long time.
And then, hey, I might not really want to know. I mean, that's something you and God got to work out. Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking about this when I heard the sister here make the comment, and then Sister Murda, so I'm going to piggyback. You mentioned that we are born in sin and shaped in iniquity, and we don't, as humans, live in that place where God does. So when we're talking about communication, certainly as a Christian, we understand it's against our nature to behave correctly, to communicate effectively, and we have to be rooted in God. Like, this is great because it teaches us practical strategies, but understanding you're asking for us to behave in a way that's not natural for us, that has to be God. And then as a Christian, because you are interacting with everybody who's not a Christian, then we have to pray for them to help them learn the strategies for effective communication too, because it is in a place where we as humans don't reside. It is God who has to dwell within us to give us what we don't have naturally. We don't have it.
If we, who are called by his name, understand that part first, and we respond and react in that manner. Now, we don't always do it because we're human, and he recognizes that. However, if you exude that with those who are not you, or who are not in the faith, or who are not ready yet, but we can't give up on them. But we have to show them the way to do this thing, just like he showed us. And we're still learning. As long as we're here, we're going to be learning. That part ain't going to change, right? But what will change is what you know. When you get the practical understanding, and when you start doing something different, will you fail? Yes. Will you always get it right? No. Is it okay that we don't always get it right? Yes. But him doing this and putting this out here, this room should be full. It really should, in all honesty. But because we go, I don't have that issue. It's okay, we got that issue. That's not why we're here.
And look, we all have that issue. That's why they're not here. They like it.
True. But you know what? But you know what the other part about that is? Sometimes they don't know they have that issue. See, that's the thing. Being human, you don't know you have certain issues.
So then it becomes self-awareness too.
Is that not the purpose?
You hit the nail on the head when you said
Yes, ma'am.
And that in itself guides us to see we need something. We need God. We need strategies. We need practicality because we don't reside there.
It is so important. This is awesome because this actually leads, even though we're talking about one thing, there's so many different areas that this piggybacks off of. And I'll tell you something else. We're in a time where we have no choices anymore of thinking that we don't have to get this, y'all.
Amen. Show respect for yourself and others. You will gain more in resolving a conflict by showing respect, honey, than showing disrespect, vinegar. Being vindictive, taking revenge, threatening, yelling, accusing, belittling, ostracizing, ignoring. If you are on the receiving end of disrespect, remove yourself as soon as possible. When the other has cooled down, perhaps the discussion can be continued in a respectful manner. If you lose your cool and become disrespectful, stop as soon as you can by either removing yourself or by silencing yourself. Maintaining a respectful atmosphere is essential in resolving conflict. If everybody go to the left and you know what? Time out. We got to take a breather. We got to come back to this. Not right now. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, what you got you?
I have found for myself that my language skills, I'm a math person, that my language skills, if I get in conflict with somebody with great language skills, they can out-talk me, I will, as you said, I will get myself out of the way. I'll say what I have to say, and then I'll stop. And that's it. It's like, I have nothing else to say because you cannot talk me, and I'm not going to try to, I'm not going to, try to be, keep up with you. I said what I have to say, I'm finished.
Okay. Sometimes
That really doesn't resolve the issue.
well, it don't, you just got to find a better time frame. Yeah, you do. You do. You just got to find a better time frame. That time was not the time.
But she's not wrong for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
In fact, that might have been the best thing for you to do. But they may think they've won, but you go pray. No. You go, right, you go pray. You stop the conflict because you don't want it to fester to something else. Because you know you. And you know when you say what you say, this is it. Right? So you might be a few words, but what you say is solid. But if you come back at them, you coming with something.
Well, that's why I say.
Or something inappropriate.
Because you're only stopping it because you feel like you can't out-talk them. I'm a good talker, but I'm also a good listener. I will concede only when I believe both parties have come to an understanding, and I don't care how well you speak. I still want it to be a win-win. I don't want it to be, I got to stop because you can out-talk me. No, I'm going to let you speak too.
But she might not be stopping for that reason alone. See, a part of it.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
But you know what? That's interesting about what she said though, is she knows herself, and really she does not want things to end in a negative. But she recognizes that it can. And if she really stays within herself and her humanness, she gonna shut it down. And when she shuts it down, it might not end well. So she has learned, I'm gonna stop right here, lead us right here.
I can't make them understand by my words, I'll just back away.
And that's what she's saying.
And one of the best examples of that in the Bible was Paul and Barnabas, who had this disagreement about John Mark, and they separated for a while rather than to let it blow up and fester into I don't know, hatred or whatever, they separated for that time. And eventually they came back together. Eventually Paul worked with John Mark. So yes, there are times where it is best and the Holy Spirit directs you to let it go, to step back.
I had a personal conflict like that with a friend who I've been friends with forever and a day, okay? They called me one day and called me about something specific. Now, they know me, that if I'm your friend, I'm your friend. I'm not gonna sugarcoat, I'm not gonna play with you and pretend with you and make you think that if you're wrong, you're right. I'm not gonna do that. Why? Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna be beat up for that, and I'm not gonna do that, because I love you enough not to do it. And then I like to be able to rest. And I know God is not gonna let me rest when I know the spirit influence that I have and I'm doing something crazy, because you just want that to be the case. They got mad. They got mad about what I said to them. And said a couple of things that were really not happy about once it was done, but I allowed it to go and I let it go. I said, Lord, am I supposed to respond to that? And he said, no. He said, let it go. We didn't talk for probably about a year or so.
But it wasn't you.
But it wasn't me. But guess what? In my humanness, I said, Lord, what did I do? Is it about me? And he said, no, it wasn't on you. He said, in fact, you are not to respond to it. Had I responded to it, we would not be friends to this day. And we have been friends for over 30 years. But we would not have been friends to this day. And I have seen her grow. She's seen me grow. We've gone through things together. And I'll tell you what, I know it was a relationship that God ordained, but I also know that the enemy is real. And he will destroy things that God has put together, and we will allow it because we let those feelings get in the way and we don't check our emotions.
And you said the right word, we allow it. And that's why I say, if you give him an inch, he'll take the whole yard. And I'm normally the person that will come back and say, well, I'm going to give it a chance to settle down.
For one's behavior before a stalemate in conflict resolution can be overcome. It takes courage, character, and a fortitude to admit an error, a lack of judgment, an uncalled for action, disrespectful behavior, or a lack of care and concern or understanding. Stronger relationships can result when such willingness is exhibited. So if you made a mistake, I tell people all the time, I made a mistake, I'm the first one to fix it. You got to be to that point. Be willing to compromise. If you cling to your position as the only one to be considered, you are closing out the other persons. To succeed in resolving conflict, all parties must feel like they have gained in the resolution. In order to resolve a conflict where the opposing parties are at opposite extremes of an issue, there is a need to come to the middle if all are to experience a winning posture. Only through compromise can each be a winner in conflict resolution. Without compromise, you have either given in and lost, or have gotten your own way with the other party having lost. Ideally, all parties should feel they have won. All the time. Now, let's get into the actual steps of how to actually do this. Step one, Clarify the conflict exists. In other words, it's okay to say out loud, you know what, me and you don't get along. Seriously, a lot of people, well, I don't want them to know I don't get along. No, make that plain Jane, however you want to say it. You know what? Whatever the case may be, I don't like you. I mean, you got to say that. Most people are like, well, I don't want them to know, and I don't want to be scared. If I don't like you, I'm going to say, hey, something in your behavior that I don't like. Yeah, be honest. Didn't we just say to be honest? So it's something about that I don't, whatever, I got to say that. Hey, I got to be honest. This is me, you clash. Now I'm willing to figure out what we clashing about, but we clash. So say that they exist, okay? If you sense a conflict, answer the following questions to yourself. For whom is this is a conflict? When does the conflict manifest itself? For how long, under the circumstances, is this a conflict? What are the hidden issues, those below or the surface in this conflict? What is it? If I'm only touching the top of it, or something deep rooted that we talked about earlier. So it may be something that's really deep rooted, but you know, I'm only dealing with the surface. Give you an example. How many of you guys ever seen an iceberg before? Anybody see the picture of an iceberg? Of an iceberg. Okay, you know, science has proven an iceberg, what you see is only the top of it. The iceberg under is even bigger.
What you can't see.
Right. So that's why I'm saying it may be something that we might be just touching only the surface on something. That's why we're conflicting. We may have to dig into it more. Okay? What are the hidden issues? Why is this a conflict? Yes, ma'am. Hold on, she's gonna get the mic to you. Hold on.
Who's talking?
Yeah, Miss Lisa.
I was about to say, Lisa, you need to meet me halfway, but are you on the walker, so I'm coming.
Still meet you halfway next time. The caregiver that I was talking about this morning, her name is Princess. Now, she knows her Bible. She and her mom know their Bible, but they don't go to church.
Okay.
And
Oh, okay.
there's a thing in there where it says, where she said that in the Bible, God hated blue-eyed and blonde-haired white people. And I told her that's not in the Bible. And then she quoted, she says, well, Isaiah 45:12, God hated Esau and loved Jacob. And I couldn't see how those two items coincide. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like I said, she knows her Bible inside and out. Her mother had her.
Yeah, but yeah, if you just understand the story of Jacob in itself, and the word reason why they hated it was because of their behavior. Because you got to realize Jacob was a deceiver. I mean, you got to know. Not get into it, but I see the point you're saying. But unfortunately, this is one of the things that you're not going to change nobody else's mind. They're going to believe what they're going to believe, and the best thing you do is pray for them. And hopefully, that somebody, maybe not you, but maybe someone that can cross their path can enlighten them. Yeah, sometimes we got to remember. Sometimes we may be the planters of the seed. Somebody else may water them. So hopefully, you plant the seed that's somewhere down the line, that somebody may water it, and then we get to heaven. You can see you and all the other persons because you was the one that started it. Just to get them to realize that, why would you challenge me? Well, the case would be by them not knowing and making them go back and look again. So it may be somebody else that may have to water that seed. But, wherever you go, you try to plant seeds as much as you can, because you may not see it you may not be able to see it full fruition, And then sometimes with certain people in certain situations, you may have to just keep them strictly business of what you got to deal with them with, because you already know they way to the left, and you trying to be in the middle, and they not gonna hit nothing else. So sometimes you just gotta just pray for them and deal with them how you gotta deal with them and keep moving. Yep, that's the best way. Yes, ma'am.
The word is also used as a weapon. The word can be used as a weapon.
That's true.
When the word is used as a weapon, it ain't necessarily for you. It can be against you. And it can be against what God says. You can know the truth, and somebody can know what the word says, but they not be using it and rightly dividing it. But you can't get stuck in that. Because his word, you don't have to fight what it says. You just acknowledge and you tell what it says, right? Once you do that, that's your line. No. That's your line. That's your line. Now, like he said, you still got to work with her, but that ain't got to be your conversation. And in the process of that, you planted the seed, because remember now, where do you put a seed? You put a seed in the ground. And once you put that seed in the ground, he said somebody else can come water it. It's not your job to fix what happens next, right? It was just your job to put it in the ground. You can't see what's taking place up under the ground. You don't see it again until it comes up out of the ground. But that's not your place. You may not even be around when that takes place, or if it takes place.
Okay.
Some things die on the vine, and that's okay. That's not your issue. But your job is your job. Your job is to sit with her. You the caretaker. Right. Your care is, I pray for them, I do what I'm paid for.
Oh, no,
She cares for you.
Right.
She cares for me.
Okay, but that's okay. Now you definitely gonna pray. And you definitely gonna pray because she caring for you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you covering you in the process of that person being the one that comes in. And if they continue to come in,
Okay.
because there can be a shift,
Okay.
okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a lot there that you gotta remember. So don't get caught up in the wrong part of that.
Right.
Okay, I'm not going to get caught up in one part of that, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, where are our feelings when facing this conflict? How does this conflict fit into my belief system about myself? What does this conflict say about the personality of the people involved? What is the conflict really? What is really the conflict? Because sometimes it may not really be a conflict, but we may perceive it that way. Now, what is the worst possible consequence if this conflict is never addressed and not resolved, addressed and I give in, addressed and others give in, addressed and we both win? So what is the worst possible thing can happen in conflict?
I might suggest there, oftentimes individuals have not learned how to differentiate between conflict and, let's say, persons, for example. When we learn to address the issues or the conflict in perspective, then we can reach a positive solution.
Oh yeah, you missed that whole conversational piece right there.
All right.
yeah, you missed that whole complete section. You had to go back and rewind the tape on that one.
All right.
Step 2, summarize. Summarize the answers.
So be it.
Yep. Summarize the answers to the question, step 1, into a clear, detailed description of the conflict with its variables. Step 3, begin to problem solve in your mind. Write out alternative solutions to the conflict. Step 4, narrow down the alternatives until you come to the top priority resolution in your mind. And I tell people all the time, use a journal. You don't know how powerful it is when you write stuff down and you see it. Because you may think about something this week. Go back and read your journal next week and figure out why were you thinking that way. Is it because of the situation or whatever, or was it the way sometimes what we like to call it, what we used to call in industry called the stinking thinking. That sometimes you just might have bad thoughts, it didn't register at the time. And like, you know what, why did I let myself even get that way? And you got to reel that back in sometimes. All right, so once you narrow that down, respect the rights of all parties. We'll ultimately have the parties feeling like winners. We'll allow a healing process to begin with one being blamed. Provide for finality of the conflict with no reoccurrence. Will result in better understanding by all parties with feelings being respected. Now, step 5. Once you completed your steps 3 and 4 on your own, you're ready to speak directly with those with whom you are in conflict. Ask the person to consider the script, the written document concerning the conflict. Go over the points of the conflict. You had step 1 and step 2. Possible resolutions to the conflict, step 3. And analyze how the top priority resolutions are beneficial to all parties in step 4. Ask the parties if they have done a similar exercise in their conflict management on their own. If not, would they like to take time to be able to go through the steps themselves, and then y'all come back and compare notes. Step 6, all parties closely examine the top resolutions 3 and 4. Jointly analyze the options based upon the questions in step 4. Spend time discussing them. Use a joint problem-solving technique to come up with a jointly owned resolution. In a jointly owned resolution, everyone has a say and feelings are considered. Right. Like, hey, you know what? I didn't think about this. Hey, I thought about this. Hey, I didn't think about this either. Hey, put your thought, my thought. Bing. Well, we batting 1,000. Okay. Step number 7. Once a jointly owned conflict resolution is decided upon, the parties set an implementation time and an evaluation procedure to determine if the resolution is successful in averting similar conflicts. In other words, we can avoid that for the future. They commit to implement the resolution and set a specific date to meet and review the resolution. Step 8, if during the subsequent meeting it is determined that the conflict has gone unresolved, alter the resolution accordingly, continuing to consider all feelings. Were you really honest? When you came up with this idea, was you really honest, or you just trying to give in? Or you just wanted your way? Sometimes you may have to ask that hard, pointed question. Now, wait a minute. It sounds like it's all about you, and you ain't hearing about know what I got to say. Okay? Sometimes you have to come back to that. All right. If you find yourself in an impasse, return to step 1 and begin again. Occasionally, professional help or that an objective outsider might be necessary. Sometimes you may have to have somebody, as we say, has no skin in the game. And they can see, you know what, I see your side, and I see your side too. Did you guys think about this side and that side? If I was in this, I might recommend this. And it may be something neither one of you think about. Because sometimes when people who have no skin in the game come up with an idea, you might have been saying it for how long, but nobody who got no skin in the game, they always agree to that. Don't you know that? Have you guys ever noticed that? Somebody who's in your family, whatever, could have been telling you about yourself for years. But somebody who has no skin in the game, tell the exact same thing you're saying, they believe them. Know why? Because they have no skin in the game. People that we are close to, they're the ones we want to beat up. These are the ones that, I know you was yay high to whatever. But you're a grown adult now. Okay. Treat them as an adult. Address the issue as an adult. But you still think about them when they were 5 years old. They're not 5 years old anymore, ladies and gentlemen. They're a grown adult person. So you have to treat them as such. Does that make sense? All right. So now, in closing, if you have any questions, you need whatever, you want a copy of this, all you got to do is email me. There is no patent on none of this material that I present, okay? So all you got to do is just email me. I'll be more than glad to share the PowerPoint with you, because again, there is no patent on this information. This is only, like we said earlier, for informational purposes, to be able to help us to address some of the issues that we need to be able to address, okay? Any other closing comments or anything you want to share, or something that you may have some questions that I might have not addressed, or you just want to say some things and just get it off your chest? Now is the time. So everybody's hearts and minds are clear then, huh? Both ways, right? Okay, but again, I thank everybody for really just doing this, because this is a process of being able to cover some of the things that, we need to see as individuals and also collectively as, as corporate bodies and as Christ and things of that nature that we need to see and we need to be able to really address, because they are challenging things. And as the Bible says, we're going to be overcomers. So we have to work on these things so we can become overcomers. Because just like Sister said here, the adversary wants you to be still stuck in your whatever and don't want you to see and tap into the power source. Because if I don't get you to tap into the power source, you're not going to see that you can become an overcomer and you overcome through him. He'll just keep you where you at in your own little misery, in your own little pool, whatever, and, always picking out something and looking at somebody, why somebody always picking on me and always, I got to defend myself, or I got to whatever. It's because you are not allowing yourself to get out of that stinking thinking or whatever the case may be to make you a better person. The whole things of all these presentations that we do is to help you to be able to look at yourself and let God show you what you need to do to improve yourself. Yeah. And then hopefully as you do that, you improve you get better along the way. You can help somebody else. Okay? So, yes. We said, yeah, this is the time you do need to practice self-preservation. Okay? In this situation, ordinarily I usually don't tell people whatever, but in this situation, this is the time to practice self-preservation, to get yourself together, and then you can be a blessing to someone else. Okay, so now let me get you an update here. I know we'll have another one next month on the fourth Saturday. Now we won't have one in May. Okay, so we'll skip May and then we'll go back to June. So I'm doing these things because I'm doing a inventory of what I like to see people develop what's called personal growth. So as I discuss these different mental health subject topics, these are part of what I like to call a bigger concept of you developing personal growth. I want you to be better people. Because if you are a better person, God can use you more. Yes, ma'am.
And I was just going to say this was a great one because there are so many conflicts in our churches today. And the Bible tells us that the world will know us by our love. And if we are caught up in conflict and turmoil, the world is not going to see Jesus. So this was a great session on conflict resolution because, going back to the sermon this morning, we are trying to demonstrate Christ to the world because Christ is soon to come. And we can't demonstrate love to anybody if we are caught up in the middle of a mess.
Our own little isms and schisms, as we like to say. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. The next one we discuss about will be accepting personal responsibility. So that'll be, I know I'm just flicking a bunch of dandruff here. I know I am, but that's all right. I take that heat. Okay.
I wonder if we called it how you can get out of accepting responsibility when more people come. That's why people don't show up, because the devil is busy. Sometimes we're not even realizing that seminar could probably help me. But we get so comfortable in those negative spaces that we just don't want to be fixed, or we don't think we want to be fixed.
Mm-hmm. But I try to keep the title simple, stupid, because that one should open up your eyes right there. Because I'm like, you know what? I know, but no, that's an excellent point. Though. I'm not reading you because a lot of times what happens, people read things, they get too long. Nah, let me, because trust me, when I do it, it's going to open your eyes. So it had to make me look at some things that I've seen that I had to be able to address. So that's why I sit back and I just look at things and look at myself and look at how I need to address them so you all can be better when you hit your communities, when you go to your places, whatever. Because sometimes you got to realize the only time somebody else may really see Jesus is through you. And so that's why I'm doing these personal growth things, because I want you to be in the situations where, you can defend yourself who you are as it relates to a Christian. And that's the bottom line. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
That where we're sitting right now, as far as time is concerned, we are parts of the body, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's going to bring it back to me.
If we're all parts of a body, you might be a hand, I might be a foot, I might be the next person might be that. But the personal growth is necessary, because if all the parts get what they need, then what do we affect? So we become more effective out there. That's going to draw them in here. Because right now what's happening is, because when we come into the body, okay, we come with all our stuff. And everybody comes with stuff. We all come with stuff. And so because we all come with stuff, when we start getting these things that we need, the personal growth that we need, then what can we give out? And then what collectively can we affect? So, we want to all be effective in what it is that we're supposed to be doing as the body of Christ. And now, y'all, more than ever, it is so much more critical in the space of time that we're in, because she said it just as plain. He is soon to come. And the question is, are we going to be ready, and are we ready? Are we ready to be used? Are we in cadence? Are we on the same plane, going the same direction? Or are we still stuck in who we were yesterday and how we saw the world? We can't do that. It's time out. And he's calling us to a higher standard. And the personal growth is where it begins. And it also ends. So this is a necessary thing. And whether or not 10 people are here, or 20 people are here, or 100 people are here, the ones who are here are the ones who are supposed to be here, because you're carriers. Each person in this room are carriers. And the fact that you're here and you are a carrier, you have spheres of influence. So the things that you learn and the things that you do are going to be effective. That's why he's doing what he's doing here. And it's not just for your body. Bring your friends, bring your families, I don't care who it is, but get them here. Because this is the necessary time. And y'all, we got to wake up, because we've been sleeping. The things that he was just talking about too, and what I was thinking while I was sitting here, and I wasn't going to say anything, but I have to say it. This country is in trouble. The world is in trouble. And if it understood conflict resolution, where would we be? If it understood what we should be doing, because there are battles, y'all, that are going on in the heavens realm, in the realm of the heavens, that we're seeing manifested on the earth. But y'all, the conflicts that man is having, this personal growth stuff will help, and we will have less of that. Just saying.
Yeah, since y'all done challenged me, I'm gonna have to pull it together. That's gonna be a challenge there, trust me, because that's yeah. So I try to have like one or two already like done, like prepared. So I have a couple of them I always keep ready, because this one here is gonna take me a minute to put that one together. So since y'all done challenged me now, I gotta step up to the challenge on that one. So, all right. So. Good,
one of the issues that I've come to realize, that which most people are not familiar with, but it's there, the two-edged sword. And to have clarity on it, two-edged sword begins with me, with the holder, and that requires self-examination first, measured. And there is a rule on that, a ruler on that sword, that there should be self-examination. It applies to me first. And then I think once the path can be cleared, or we can arrive at proper solutions in the beginning, if we follow that pattern that Christ set, first it begins with me, and then many of the conflicts can be resolved right there, even before they begin.
Good point. All right, so if everybody's hearts and minds are clear, Brother Clarence, I'm going to let you close us out in prayer.
Father, again, we are privileged to be here, for this is just the tip of the iceberg where you're leading us. We must meet the criteria that you've set before us, and it begins where we are individually. And solutions cannot be solved with others until they're perfect self-examinations. And it all is to be measured by your word. We're thankful for those who are here and those who shows interest. And there are others who may have some cloudiness. You love them, and they must be reached as well. So take us now from this place, but may you never separate yourself from us. And by your grace, we purpose not to separate from you. Carry us until we come back again, till you bring us again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you, folks, and we'll see you next go around. I guess that was the timer, huh?